I think that, this idea of like managing on the outside, you know, I had very active children and I kind of looked pretty like a normal, mom out there, give or take, of course. And I think that sometimes that gives us the impression that we're fine.
Welcome to This Way Up, the podcast dedicated to supporting parents and caregivers navigating the complex world of mental health. I'm Andrea, and each episode we dive deep into the conversations that matter, exploring the challenges, triumphs, and transformative journeys of those facing mental health struggles within their families. Whether you're here for expert advice, inspiring stories, or just a little boost to get you through the day, we've got you covered. So grab a cup of coffee, kick back, and join us as we find the bright spots in the mental health journey, because we're all climbing our way up together.
Welcome back to This Way Up. We are going to switch it up just a little bit today. Typically, we were talking about what it's like to be a caregiver to somebody who is struggling with their mental health. But today, our guest, Emily Redondo, is going to share what it's like to be a caregiver who struggled with sobriety and alcoholism. She is the author of Wife, Mother, Drunk. Emily shares what it was like to be a mother while she was trying to get sober and why recovery was so dang hard. She shares how generational alcoholism and trauma played a role in her story and what it took to actually break that cycle. And at the end of the conversation, she shared something that really stuck with me, that her goal was to raise kids who can talk about addiction, trauma, and mental health without shame or silence. You know, Emily is brutally honest and open with the ups and downs of her life and shares her very, very personal story with many in hopes of trying to help someone else. I really hope that you enjoy this conversation. And if you do, please subscribe and share with your friends. Emily, after reading your book, I have been so excited to have you on. Your book is, it pulled at every heartstring I have as a person, as a mother, as a daughter, as just the whole thing. It's incredible. And I'm not exactly sure where we're going to end up because there's so many things that you can talk about and so many good pieces and nuggets. But we're going to start with, you once described yourself as a mom who had it all together, except you were drunk all day.
Right, right.
And I think that that really spoke to me in the sense that we all tend to hide things.
Yes.
And it is something that you're looking to not do any longer and to give to other people the ability to not have to hide. But I want to know, what was it like living kind of that double life?
Well, it really didn't feel so much like a double life necessarily at the time. It's one of those things that once you step back from it, then you see the insanity, if I may. But, when you're in that mental state, you don't really, you're not thinking like that because you are insane. You are experiencing it. And, what towards the end, the last few years of my addiction to alcohol, which, by the way, it was all wine, but I drank wine like a drug addict, basically, is kind of how I describe it. There was nothing social or acceptable in the way that I was drinking. It was super closet drinking. Forget it. I don't even know if we ever owned a wine glass. But I think that, this idea of like managing on the outside, I had very active children and I kind of looked pretty like a normal, mom out there, give or take, of course. And I think that sometimes that gives us the impression that we're fine. We're
Mm-hmm.
okay. I mean, look at all the stuff I'm able, you know. The other thing is like the more I got into my drinking, my tolerance was off the chart. So I wasn't really being drunk all day for me was not the stereotypical picture of drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And
Was it like what they would call a functioning alcoholic?
no, I
Okay.
mean, maybe at face value, but really
Mm-hmm.
what it was is that my body, had completely readjusted, turned everything upside down. And instead of, my body responding like, okay, this is inebriation and this is something poisonous that I'm putting in my body and enjoying the effect of it, it was, I had to have alcohol. My body had completely adapted to having alcohol in its system. And
Mm.
that's the medical aspect of it. So if I didn't have alcohol in my body, I I couldn't function.
Wow. That became your new normal, was just existing off of alcohol.
Yeah, and people die over that. It's a very serious situation where you wake up every day not wanting to drink and doing everything to try to continue to push forward like I can't do this. I don't want to do this, but then you do it.
Yeah. That's so hard. I think you wrote somewhere in your book too that you you tried to get sober and you I don't remember the exact quote, but
Mm-hmm.
you loved your kids so much, but even though you loved them so much that you really didn't like yourself, and that could and until you could like yourself, you couldn't get sober. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, love doesn't get you sober. Your love, how much you're loved by others, how much you love someone else, whether it's your kids or not, that's not enough. It's not a matter of changing my mind and, oh, you know what? Look what I'm doing. I'm just going to make a choice and stop. I mean, it's addiction is really confusing and hard to explain even for someone like me.
Mhm.
And if love could keep us and get us sober, then we would all do it. We'd
Right,
all be
right.
there. And my situation that I've said multiple times is I got sober dozens of times. I mean, I knew how to do it. I grew up around a 12-step program of AA, and I mean, that was like a way of life. So it wasn't about how do I do this? What am I supposed to do to get sober? I knew that. I couldn't stay sober because I was tortured by the reality of my actions and things that happened and who I was, and it was hell. I mean, I wanted to die in sobriety, believe it or not. It was just like, maybe not die, but sort of, I always prayed for a do-over. Like, oh my God, I just
Mhm.
want a do-over. I just want to start all over. Or I want nobody to know me, like erase me from everybody's memory.
Oh, it's so
Because
heartbreaking.
it is, and when I talk about it, I've had such a, oh my gosh, like brutal work in, this type of stuff that I think when I'm talking about it, I'm thinking about the Emily that was then, in that moment, feeling those feelings. And I'm kind of honoring her and exactly where she was. And, I talk about it and I picture myself back then. And I mean, it breaks my heart too, so
Sure.
I need to make sure that people remember her too.
Yeah. Yep, that she needed some extra help then. How did you take me back from when you were younger. You speak about generational trauma. You speak about alcoholism through the generations. You've also had some eating disorders. Take me back about how you kind of got to where you're at, or where you were at, where you finally were at to the breaking point. I know.
Which breaking point?
Okay, let me take that back.
Yeah.
Let's not say the breaking point. Let's say the healing point. Let's say where you got to the point where you were with your son and you finally said, now is the time. I need to fix Emily and fix all of these years and generations of trauma so that moving forward, I can give my family the Emily that they need, and hopefully the future that they need as well.
I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I apologize. Okay,
It's
so
okay.
I have always been aware that I shouldn't be alive. I've had many moments in life that I should have died, but I didn't. And towards the end of my drinking, I knew it was coming. I knew death was coming, and it was there. It was like a presence around me. And I don't know if those kind of experiences, I mean, they just change. They changed me completely. I knew that either I was going to die or someone else was going to die because of me. And at that point, I had been to so many rehabs, so many psychiatric, and, everyone, all they did was like, they just wanted to fix me. And, I had to get to this point where I'm going to do things I've never done before, because everything I've done before didn't work for me. And part of it was I needed to stop running from my own history, my own past. And it's like there's these things that live in us, it's like, oh my God, somebody walks into the room or brings up a topic and your gut sinks and you're like, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this person or this sibling or this, this event that happened that was so horrible, and I can't even look at it. I will later. Someday, but not right now. And I had gotten to the point where I'd done that too many times, and I just had to do it. I had to go in there and light the whole thing up, until there weren't any shadows. And I knew all of it until it didn't scare me. I didn't have to run from it. And I don't think I really knew at the time what I was doing. It wasn't, the healing process is so different for everybody. It's not linear. And it's really kind of something that you can look back on and say, oh yeah, I really healed from that. But can I tell somebody else to do it? I mean, absolutely not, because we're all so different. And at the time, I had to figure it out, whatever it was, because I had this feeling that if I didn't, I was going to die.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready to die.
So your will to live was stronger than your need to continue down the path that you were at.
Yeah. And it wasn't just like for me, like, oh, that's scary, I don't want to die because that sounds terrifying. It
Right.
was looking at what that impact would be on other people's lives and the parts of other people's lives that I'm not going to like be around for. And like,
Yeah.
that was just like, excuse my language. I was like, fuck that. I'm not into that. Like, no, I can't. I'm not doing that. So,
It's interesting as mothers, maybe it was beforehand too, but I think once I turned to be a mom, I started to be much more cognizant of how my actions and behaviors affected other people. And it became very, very important to me. And this is kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to say it anyways. I've been driving before and just totally broke down in tears, realizing that I am going to be giving my children some of the worst pain that they've ever experienced whenever I do die. I mean,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I know I won't be doing it on purpose or anything like that, but
Yeah.
it's such a horrible feeling thinking that that's going to happen. And then in your case, then adding on that you could be the reason that that happens has got to be awful. And
Well, it's interesting because I know people on whether they were the mother who passed away or the child whose mother passed away, or parent because of their disease of or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what's trending right now because I'm offline 100%. And I know
yeah,
that I'm an alcoholic. I just say it straight up. Like, I know that's not
yeah,
the proper term, but this is one right here. And like, I feel this kind of compassion for both ends because I am a child who had two alcoholic parents. But
yeah.
then I am also the alcoholic parent of four kids. And I'll tell you what, some of those mothers that I know, they never got the chance. I feel sad for that they didn't get the chance to give their kids the other side of them out of addiction, that they didn't make it out. It's a tragedy. It really is. And so, I'm really fortunate. One of the things I'm happiest about is all these, they don't replace what I did with my children. And I understand that very well. But I get to like add on good stuff
Yeah.
into their life. And also, do the really hard work so that these things that we accidentally inherit, they're called out and they stop. And, it's going to make them better parents.
Well, you're very, very brave. And clearly you love your children very much to be able to do that. I think that no parent is perfect,
No.
but a good parent works on their weaknesses and shows their children how to grow out of them. And you're doing that. You're absolutely doing that. Do you feel, because you have generations of alcoholism in your family, that you were set up for it no matter what? Like it was just going to happen?
Um, that's such a good question. I think that, people who have a history of alcoholism or any addiction in their family has that little trigger button,
Mhm.
and whether they click it or not, I have no idea. I think one of the things that is a component of the idea of like inherited alcohol addiction has to do with what's going on around it as well. So, both my parents were alcoholics and they drank very differently. My dad was your stereotypical raging, you know, like he was unpredictable, I'll say that. And so my mom was the alcoholic that was the number, like she numbed, like we're gonna box this all up. She had the green jug of wine back in the day, and growing up like that, I had no idea that was normal. I had no idea
Mhm.
that anything was wrong other than, gosh, my parents are acting weird. My mom's acting weird. But also, you know, we didn't talk about anything in that house. We didn't talk about any feelings. We weren't allowed to have any feelings. You don't get mad. You don't cry. You don't bring up something that's bothering you, or if you get your feelings hurt, nobody wants to know. You just get through it because we no, you don't want to upset the alcoholic, kind of.
Right.
But I think that that's part of the thing, that until, if I hadn't come to a point where I'm looking back and being like, oh, okay, because this whole book came about as like my own investigation, sort of like,
Right.
how in the world did I end up here? I mean, I had, the fairy tale dream of like, I want to be a mommy and I want to do blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I'm like people's worst case scenario in the category of mother. So as I'm looking back, there's an alcohol in my history, but there's also these things that nobody knew how to deal with. Or it was
Hmm.
a cultural time where people dealt with it differently than they do now. And my lineage is, one of the famous things that got somebody's attention when I first started writing this was when I said, oh, I come from pioneers. And it was sort of like, wow, what? Oregon Trail material that settled into this, a farmstead form of living. And it's isolating. It's out there in Nebraska plains and, wherever. And these men, all the men in my family went to war. They were all in, from Civil War on, probably further back, but I couldn't get,
Right.
but all of them. And my grandfather was frontline combat in World War II. And I can't even imagine what he saw and what he experienced. And so they come back and, they called it shell shock, sort of, but nobody
Right.
knew what was going on or how to deal with it. And, my grandpa was at the tavern every night of the year except for 2 nights. And that's when it was closed. And one was Christmas and one was on tax day. It was closed. I
I
know.
didn't realize they closed on tax day, but okay.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was a very small town, but other men would just disappear for a few days, go on benders, and you know,
It's interesting you're talking about that because I don't think I've ever,
oh, happy Veterans Day, by the way.
oh yeah, happy Veterans Day to you too. Um, I don't think I've ever put together the fact though that, we always talk about the soldiers that went away and what they went through, but how about the people that loved them when they came home? I mean, your grandmother, your mother, your great grandmother,
Hmm.
all of those women had to navigate life around someone who has some sort of issues, right? And how did they do that? It couldn't have been easy on them.
Well, there's that aspect of it, but then there's also the aspect of all the men are gone.
Sure.
In these small family communities, both of my great grandmothers had a lot of kids. I'll just say that, farms, like you're
Yeah. Yeah.
breeding full time here, but they had 4 sons. They each had 4 sons, and out of four, three were drafted. So one got to stay home and help with the farm, and the other three were out there. Like, what does that do? Not only is it this aspect of complete anxiety and fear within the woman, but also you're still a mom and you've got all the work and
Right.
you're by yourself. So there's things like that where kids are watching and we're learning sort of like either how to deal or how not to deal, whether it's right or wrong. It's what we see and what we know. My grandfather died the same week that his dad died. My grandma had 7 kids and was pregnant with her eighth. And, you know, my mom remembers going to the funeral, and then it was like, that's it. Nobody talked about any of it. You don't, You don't have grief support groups. You don't even,
Right.
my mom never saw her mom cry. And
My
then
goodness.
years later, my mom had a sister that drowned, and no one said a word about it. The funeral took place, and then it was like, we can't talk about it. We don't talk about uncomfortable things.
So this brings me to, you've done a lot of exploration and healing on yourself. I don't know if your mother is still alive,
She
but
is. My dad is
she
not. My
is.
mother is, yes.
Okay. Have you ever talked to her about any of this? And how
Yeah.
did that go?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was really good practice of having uncomfortable conversations, which, we talk about that in my house with the kids. I've got two teenagers who are still at home, and the other two are independent adults. And if I brought up, my mom's sister's name is Lynette. If I said Lynette in any aspect of anything, my mom was on the verge of a sob. And this is like 30 plus years later. But I also talked to my mom about what it was like when I was a kid and what she was like as a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she acknowledges and knows, you know what? Yeah, your needs weren't met. And it's neglect is a really hard word, but my mom was primarily focused on the verbal and emotional and all this abuse from my father. And like,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to upset him. The dinner table explosions, like, everybody's looking at each other like, don't mess this up. And it doesn't matter
Right.
if he wants, it's going to happen. But she was scared too.
Yeah.
And so I'm at a place where it's like, I understand, because she wants me to understand her point. And I do. I understand now. I can look at it and be like, I mean, gosh, this was a woman who was afraid and
Mm-hmm.
she didn't know what to do.
Right.
But then I have to also acknowledge, like, but that was me. Like, you know, nobody protected me or my
Right.
brother, or, there wasn't any defending or, taking taking care of on that aspect. And then, I'm at a place, and maybe this is just because of all the shit I've been through. I do not have a problem saying that I was not a good mother for a while on many occasions. I was not, and I wasn't anything that my kids deserved without any explanation to them or anybody else. But I am now. It doesn't. I totally own and acknowledge what I've done. I mean,
Yeah.
I am my children's trauma. And I think that is very difficult for some people to do. To to
Oh, yeah.
be to be it's not that I'm okay with it, but I'm like the ugly kind of acceptance. Like, I accept it. And now I have
But don't
to.
you think that by accepting that and taking responsibility, that you are being empathetic to your children's needs as they are today because they've got pain from when they were
A
younger?
1,000%. 1,000%.
And you can't go back and relive those years, but taking responsibility is still a very loving thing to do if you're really, if you're truly taking that responsibility and making changes.
Yeah. I'm not the superpower sober mom at all. It's not about me. We're all recovering. It's not just me. I wanted them to get into therapy and get super angry about everything I put them through. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do it, be mad. Like, I'm not defensive about it. I I have my pinhole view of what was going on, but it's not the same as theirs. And I want them to get in there and get get mad and say it and get it out, because otherwise you're just, you're just holding on to a bomb that's going to go off at, sooner or later, however that is, whatever it's going to look like. So,
Do you feel like the alcoholism created barriers to your relationships with your kids?
oh
Were
yeah,
you
of course. Of course.
were they afraid of you at that time, or do you think they knew what was going on, or was it until you started to peel back the onion and heal yourself that they started to realize?
Yeah. Oh, I love that question, because on one aspect, help me remember to come back to both sides of that, as far as like, were they afraid of me? Because I do want to say they did know
Okay.
what was going on. My husband is in recovery as well. And
Okay.
he got clean and sober in 2003. Both him and my mom, just, they've never relapsed. So it was like they quit and stayed quit, right? My husband and I have been married almost 21 years, and, we got more into it. But talking about recovery, sobriety, addiction, like there was no shame. It was just us.
So
And
your kids were, when you went into a treatment facility or something, they were fully aware of what was happening to mom and what
yep,
she was doing.
yep, yeah. It
So
wasn't,
it really,
mommy camp for a month. It
yeah.
was, in fact, there's this beautiful thing when they're younger, before, peer influence, and, they would tell, they told, like, I never knew it was going to come out of their mouth, because we
Hmm.
intentionally, like, we didn't make it a shameful thing. And at my book launch, I actually got to talk to this Stella's, who's 17 now, her kindergarten teacher was there. And when Stella, it was the summer after she had kindergarten, we were walking through the neighborhood and ran into her teacher, Mrs. Seiss, and she was asking about our summer, and, Stella's just prancing around, in this thing, and she says, well, yeah, we didn't go on vacation. My mom had to go to a hospital because she drank too much. And like, just ticking it off. And I'm like, I look at the teacher like, oh yeah,
Well, that's
she's,
true.
and Miss Seiss handled it so brilliantly. Like, you just never know what's going to cross someone's face. It's give a message to a child. But she was like, well, that's terrific. What a good thing to do. Just kind of went on that way. But as they got older, and, my drinking got worse, I would think, gosh, the less I'm around, then the less this is going to impact them. It's very
Mm,
isolating. So it's not as much of the, the affectionate, like, tender, loving kind
right.
of thing. Because now, when they're older, I'm like, oh my God, what if they smell alcohol on me? Even
Mm.
though it's like seeping out of my pores, right? But, and as far as the question about, were they afraid of me? I I'm going to guess yes. I'm going to guess that when I was drinking, because it wasn't pretty. I mean, if it's not pretty out, you can see a woman who's had too much to drink out in public. I mean, that doesn't look great. More or less, it's probably worse in the house. And I don't have, I mean, because of, been able to have these kind of conversations about, like, what was going on in those kind of moments with my mother, with my husband. And I'm not really sure that my kids are at a point where they can have that kind of conversation with me. But
Sure.
I think that they would see something like telling me those things as a form of hurting me, even
Right.
though it is part of the healing process. I just feel like they wouldn't want to do that to me. And they can, if they can do it like in therapy or, to a
Right,
third
right.
party or something. But I don't know.
I get that. So, I mean, first of all, everybody should go to therapy because
Yes.
no matter how ideal your upbringing is, it's not ideal, right? No matter what happens. And I remember I was working through some stuff, and the therapist said to me, well, just talk to your mom about that. And I said, I don't think I need to. And my husband happened to be there too. And he's like, I don't think she needs to. Oh, no. I came home and I was like, yeah, they're really wanting me to talk to her about this. I'm like, but I don't think so. I said, she's owned up to her part of what went on. And I don't want to hurt her. I love her for who she is today. I love her for who she was a long time ago. And I don't need to inflict that pain because it's not going to serve that purpose
Yeah.
for either one of us. Do you fear that your children could have a problem with alcohol? Are you always kind of on edge watching them and such? Are you able to be comfortable sitting back knowing that your journey is teaching them what they need to know about the disease?
Oh gosh. No, I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
Because that would put in some kind of element where I think I can change it, or I think I can get in there and fix, line everything up so that they don't go through
Mm-hmm.
any pain or suffering in life, especially in the category of addiction. And I think we all are scared of our kids' future because we love them and we don't want them
Sure.
to go through pain, I mean, pain of a breakup even,
Right.
it's like, it's so hard.
Do you consider, and I'm not saying from a professional standpoint or anything like that, but
Good,
do
because I'm
you
not
consider,
professional.
neither am I, but do you consider alcoholism a form of a mental disorder?
I think that addiction, whatever it is, whatever your addiction is, and if it is with alcohol, I think it's in your brain. And
Mm-hmm.
it has nothing to do with whether you're a good person, a bad person, a morally upstanding citizen, whether or not you have integrity. It doesn't care. It's your brain. And at some point, that's all it is. Because you can't control it. You can't fix it. I think sometimes, it's like, well, just don't drink. Just don't pick up a drink. Is so oversimplistic. It's insulting.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of mental health aspects. I think there's also a lot of like developmental aspects in terms of like, I didn't know how to do life.
Right.
I had the completely wrong picture. And not only did I have the wrong picture because of what mothers tend to present inside the home, as far as like, God, my mom, she said I say this on every podcast, so I guess I should say it on this one too. She vacuumed every single day.
God love that woman. She needed a Roomba.
She ironed all of my father's work shirts. I mean, she was like this domestic queen who was also smart and pretty. And then, like, I think, oh, well, I'm going to be like that too. And I crashed and burned. I mean, I didn't even like understand that dishes have to be done every day. Like, it's just like so weird. The stuff that like never sunk in as far as like how to do anything independent. I mean, but I forgot where I was going with that. I'm so sorry. You asked me a really good question. And
Oh, I was asking you if you thought that alcoholism was a mental disorder, but I think your analysis of that is so spot on, not from a professional standpoint, but
yeah.
from a survivor standpoint. I remember when my daughter she had severe anxiety, and she was taking some medication, which did not go over well for her. And she was doing some really unpredictable behaviors. And my son was questioning, why aren't you doing anything about this? Or, why isn't she getting disciplined for it, basically? And I said, how can I discipline somebody for something that they don't have control over? And I truly felt that way, that I couldn't discipline her. She still had to face the consequences of her actions. And, but yet when there is a chemical imbalance going on in your brain, I truly believe that things that the typical person can control or do, you cannot during that period of time.
Yeah. I mean, and I do think, that when it comes to mental aspects of things, whether it's a chemical imbalance or, something else like that, that's real. I don't, when I say I think addiction is, it's the brain, I'm talking about like the physical action, like more of like the physical components of this brain I have. And I mean, there's just so many ways to kind of get off the important topics. And whether it's the current terminology, whether it's where does it come from, is it moral, or this or that, it's like that doesn't matter. Like that's a useless conversation when we're still living in and around the statistics of the problem. Like let's just quit dancing. This is how I feel, of course.
Yeah, the issue is that there is a problem that needs to be addressed.
Right.
And it doesn't matter whether you say it's blue and I say it's black, or you say it's black and I say it's blue. It doesn't matter. There's still an issue and it needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And I do think I like how you say the terminology, because over the past few years, as I've been doing this podcast, there have been several episodes where terminology has come up. And while I do appreciate people's sensitivities to that, I also think that sometimes we just need to say, hey, this is what it is. And in this case, alcoholism is alcoholism, and there are consequences that go with that. And there's responsibilities that need to be taken, and it's hard. And we can still all say, we've got empathy for those who are going through it. And understanding it from the general public is more important than what we call it.
Yeah.
And was the book the catalyst for your healing, or did you start to heal and then decided to write the book?
So by heal, do you mean sobriety?
Sobriety. There we go with words, right? Yeah. So sobriety.
Well, healing, I'm just trying to like pick out like what the healing, because
I guess coming to terms with your history, taking ownership of where you're at, and then getting sober. I think that to me is a process of healing and acceptance of who you are, and then paving a path of who you want to be moving forward. I guess that's how I think of it.
Yeah, that's really, that's very thought-provoking. I don't think that anything can be thoroughly accomplished or healed without sobriety or help with mental illness, whatever it is, until those issues are addressed first. And I think that that's where I failed in the past, is kind of trying to maintain early sobriety and do therapy and, all this kind of stuff. It's hard. It's overwhelming. It's crushing, because so many times, drinking is the answer. It's not the problem. So we're drinking because I don't want to feel this. I don't, we're kind of
Right.
slugging it down as far as we can. And then sobriety comes along and it's kind of on shaky ground, like, like a little newborn animal, right? And I just have to make sure that that's okay, that that's taken care of in a good place before the deep dive,
So,
transfer kind
so
of
you
thing.
think,
So,
so you think that you had to stop drinking first before you could address the feelings that were bubbling up, or did you think it was better to address the feelings that were bubbling up and then try to stop drinking?
well, I learn through error. So, I relapsed a lot, a
Right.
lot. And that's a whole nother circus. So it wasn't going to work that way, for me, because I
Hmm.
kind of did try to do it all. And, oh, I want to get better. Oh, I'm dying inside. Oh, I'm feeling too much. Oh, let's put on a good face. Oh, let's go to a meeting. I'm not drinking today. It's just like a bomb waiting to go off, actually. So, I really had to figure out this thing that was so difficult for me as a woman and as a mother, is like, I got to make boundaries for myself. I got to figure out how to survive this. And the first thing I had to get through was staying sober.
Hmm.
The book,
So then did you pick up the
yeah,
writing the book at that
writing
point?
the book started because I was scared. I was still
Hmm.
scared of, like, if I do this again, I won't make it out. I'm going to die. That was not even a question. I had so many questions and so much confusion about my past, in and around addiction, whether it was as a kid or a teen or a, mom, whatever. And it was like a joke, kind of, because the family would be talking about a story, telling a story or something, and everybody's yucking it up, talking about it. And I'm like, I don't remember that. And they're, oh yeah, you weren't here, you were at rehab. Yeah. It's like, for everything, all these things that I missed because I was there. And I'm like, which one? It's like so confusing. So part of it was just making a map of, like,
Hmm.
what all is that? Because I do have one of those lives where somebody's like, my God, how have I never heard this before? And I've known you 20 years. So, my husband and I made a list of all the places I had been. And it turns out that, I had been institutionalized at least 20 times. And I mean, that is shocking. It's hard to wrap my head around that,
Hmm.
even still, because it's like I had a whole nother life. And in these types of places, it's very different than the normal way that we live. And so I really dug into this idea of, like, you know, what contributed to this? Because in a way, I think I wanted to be able to find a spot in my past where I could be like, this is where it happened. It's got
Mm.
to be this. And if this hadn't happened, then I would have turned out great. I would have had
Yeah.
that life. Nothing would have gone wrong, and blah, 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 like, we're going to find it, like, put the puzzle
Right.
together and, like, make sense. And as I was doing that, I found this rich and fascinating story about myself that I never knew. And writing about my personal experiences was absolutely re-traumatizing. And one of the things about writing this book is that, we have like our own memory of it, but
Right.
the most important thing to me in writing this book is that I told the truth, that it was honest. And it wasn't like worse or better, or it was just like open for the reader. Like, here it is, whatever you want to do with it, go ahead. But I'm just going to tell the truth. I know I'm talking nonstop, but I want to get to this, is that I want to make sure that my kids are equipped to become adults who can talk about these kind of things, who have practiced it before they are out on their own in their life. So
I think that is a beautiful way to summarize this, because This Way Up is dedicated to caregivers. And you are a caregiver who is sharing her journey with her own kids to ensure that they are healthier than she was growing and moving forward.
yeah, I think it's just about wanting them to have a better chance. And that's the
Yeah.
best I can do. And, caregiving is hard. It's exhausting, and it's often unrewarded
Right.
in a moment to moment kind of way.
Absolutely.
There's no assignment to complete. You know what I mean? It's like,
No, I do.
yeah,
I do. Your grade comes at the very, very end. Really on your deathbed, when you look back and you said, I did a good job.
yeah. I mean, my proudest moments now are like when, as heartbreaking as it is, when they don't need me, because
Yeah, I know. Isn't that awful?
like nobody warned me about this.
I know. Tell us a little bit about your book, where people can find it, and best of luck to you. Your story is really incredible.
Well, thank you. So it's on Amazon. You can order it off of Amazon. You can also order it at like independent book websites and bookstores. I've just discovered that it's in a lot of Barnes and Nobles, which is super exciting and
Absolutely.
fun. But
Yeah.
if you just Google it, "wife, mother,
Okay.
drunk," or type it in, or go to it'll pop up.
That's great. Well, Emily, you are really very, very brave. And I'm glad to see that you're sharing this and a part of you with the world, because we all need to have more exposure to this stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything you're doing.
Let's just see if we can help just one person, Emily. We're okay.
That's it.
We've done our
That's
job, right?
That's right.
I hope you're feeling a little lighter, a little brighter, and ready to take on whatever comes next. Remember, the journey of mental health is all about progress, not perfection. So keep climbing. And don't forget to celebrate the small wins. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little lift. Thanks for tuning in to This Way Up.